Welcome back to the Act Two podcast, a podcast for the real-life working screenwriter. I'm Tasha Hugh.
And I'm Josh Hallman.
And as a reminder, Act Two is a network and support group for the everyday working screenwriter. This podcast is just one of the things we do. And I actually want to kind of clarify that because I've gotten questions recently where people were very confused that there's like the podcast part of Act Two and then there's this like network and support group for working screenwriters part of Act Two.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just do a little backstory here for a second. In 2015, I had been sitting down with a lot of my writer friends and we were complaining, talking about, asking questions about just job stuff, just stuff that we felt like we didn't have anyone to talk to about. And someone made an offhand comment like, wouldn't it be great if like we had a group that we could talk about this stuff with? And I was like, yeah, it would be. I talked to Josh about it and I talked to Dave about it, friend of the podcast. And we're like, we should do something about this. And so I started Act Two on a whim, wondering if people would care. And suddenly a lot of writers wanted to be involved. And these are all started with just friends of ours who were working screenwriters, people who were pitching on movies and TV shows, who'd worked in TV rooms, etc., or who at the time, because this was a while ago, were assistants to big writers, but were also like on the cusp of becoming professionals. And so we started that group, and that is sort of a separate thing from Act Two in a way, from the Act Two podcast, where it is a tracking board. It is a community for screenwriters who are actively working in the industry. And then there's the Act Two podcast piece, which we started later in 2019, Josh and I, because again, a lot of the things we were talking about were like, there are people out there who probably are wondering the same things, have the same questions or same problems. Let's just start a podcast for those people and kind of expand this idea in this community. And so that's how it started. So they are separate yet connected.
Mm-hmm. I hope that made sense. It made sense to me.
I hope that made sense. And in the future, like 2025, Josh and I have big plans on ways to kind of get those two sides working together even more. We do already have a mentorship, so those professional screenwriters mentor other writers who are up and coming, who don't yet have management or don't yet have that first job, and you can access that through the Coverfly website. Up top, you'll see a little mentorship button, and you could potentially be mentored by one of our Act Two professional writers. But in 2025, Josh and I have really cool plans to build that out even more.
Yeah. A lot of the things that we've talked about before have come to fruition. There's things that I know that can happen moving into the new year, which I'm really excited about.
Oh, yeah. A lot of great stuff.
Oh, it's going to be so much fun.
But let's just say you hate community and you'd rather DM us privately. You can, which is cool. We have an email, ActTwoWriters@gmail.com, all spelled out, where you can ask us questions. You can suggest topics that you want to talk about. Follow-up questions that you have on episodes. All of that can go there, or you can reach out to us on our Instagram and Twitter at ActTwoWriters. I am Story Thursday on Instagram and Tasha 3.0 on Twitter and Blue Sky.
I'm Josh.
I'm not going to stop.
I'm Joshua Hallman on Twitter, Josh Hallman on Instagram. I do have a Blue Sky account, which I've never used, but I created it because I was like, maybe? It just sits there.
Now's the time.
Something actually happened to me this morning. I don't mean to get so far off course, but I sent you a photo of robot on wheels scanning shelves. And I was like, wait, what? And then it had this little thing on it that said, hi, I'm like, whatever, Tippy, the stock shelf robot. I don't even know what it said. It said something, but I was like, man, that is weird. For some odd reason, this little robot made me feel more worried than I've been in a long time.
Oh, interesting.
And it was something where I'm like, oh yeah, I know this exists everywhere. But then I started to think about screenwriting actually on my ride home. And I was like, wait, like I'm already scared of it, but should I be more like, I don't know where my head was at with it. That's all.
I think you should be more scared than you are, but I don't know what that more looks like. I don't think any of us really do yet.
Yeah.
I sort of, I mean, it's inevitable.
It's one of those things where it's like a UFO invasion, right? Where if I overthink it, I'm just going to become a doomsday prepper and go live in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
But if I just kind of accept it and say, you know what, I'll deal with that problem when they're trying to abduct me, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, there's probably a middle ground in there somewhere. I don't know what that is, but
sure.
Yeah, I feel like what's inevitable is that we're going to have AI created movies that may even hit theaters, that will definitely hit theaters. And then we'll just have AI created content and human created content.
Yeah.
And you'll get to pick and choose which you want to go see.
Yeah. The reason I said that, by the way, is because when you said blue sky, I was thinking that, I took Twitter off of my phone. I'm trying to kind of detach a little bit from technology and not get lost. And that was the long way to say I was trying to get rid of technology, and then I walked right into it and literally walked right into it and was like, oh, hey there. I mean, we have driving cars here in LA, those Waymos that we just have accepted. Those little Cocos deliver food on the streets.
They're so cute.
They are really cute.
Although there's a whole line now of the little Coco robots that deliver food that have Venom stickers on them because as like a billboard around their face, and that's not cool. That's terrifying.
Yeah, I hate when people get out of the way for them.
Why? They're on their little job. They gotta go get their food delivered.
Sorry, robot, you need to get out of my way. I'm still in charge of the sidewalk. This is my sidewalk for now.
That's an interesting point of view. I never thought to not get out of its way because it's so cute. But I should stand my ground and be like, no, this is how the robot revolution will happen, though, as if we're assholes.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Josh will be the first to die.
I guess. Well,
all right. This is actually related to This Week in Writing I have. So should we just jump into that?
Let's go.
This Week in Writing.
I used AI this week.
Go on.
Okay, there's two instances where I used it. One scared me and I don't like it and it gave me an icky feeling. One I'm like more okay with.
You wrote a full episode. Go.
So I was brainstorming the opening of this movie that I'm writing, which takes place in a very particular type of sort of culture, location. I don't mean like ethnic culture or, national culture. I mean just like a work culture that I've never personally worked in. And I was like, I don't know. I don't like have the time right now to go into that environment and do actual research for it. And there's a lot of Googling I could do and a lot of like random offshoot Google trips that I could take, or I could try this fucking ChatGPT bullshit. So I opened it up. And I don't feel comfortable even talking about this. I feel sick to my stomach. And I typed in my prompt. They have like a brainstorm option, right? Like brainstorm this. What do you want to brainstorm? Brainstorm what it looks like and the behind the scenes of this work environment. And it was like, blah, 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 blah. Here you go. Yeah. Here's multiple pages of options. And, it was fine. It wasn't sort of something to write an encyclopedia on, but it was enough to brainstorm for screenplays. It was enough to get my juices flowing about ideas of, ooh, okay, this little piece is interesting. Let me sort of think on my own about that, or even hone in on that and brainstorm that further. And there was something within that sort of spit back that it did that led me to another idea that I only did it twice. That was the amount of comfortability I had with it. So that was that. And then I'm putting together this lookbook / Bible for an animated show I'm writing. And the asks are very specific. And so how I typically put these together before AI was I would go on Pinterest and I would search artists who had done various fan art, essentially. And it's never perfect. It's never what you really want. And it takes you fucking hours, sometimes days, because you're really trying to hone in on the exact piece of art that would illustrate what you're talking about in your Bible. So instead I went on Midjourney and I did it that way. And it still took me hours, but fractions of the time.
We used Midjourney and it was incredibly helpful.
As a brainstorming tool.
Storming tool. All right, it's time for my confession.
Oh God, I know you've been hiding something.
I haven't really been hiding. I also used ChatGPT for something.
What was it?
I was going to write you about it. So I'm writing something with someone, which you're going to read next week maybe. And the person's a chef. And the character travels to a different country and gets involved with these very specific dishes. And so I'm looking up. I'm like, what dishes are these? Like this and this and this. So I go on to ChatGPT and I just type in. I'm like, what dishes would be served in a market in this, small village in this country?
Yeah.
And it was like, boom, 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 boom. And I was like, done. There we go. And it took no time at all. And I was thinking to myself, fuck, this is really helpful. On this note, I actually read something recently that Google is like having a crisis because of ChatGPT and the use of AI. And so us talking about this is like maybe ChatGPT will just be the search engine that we use as opposed to going to Google, or maybe it'll be both, or maybe there'll be some kind of merger.
Yeah.
So no, I've definitely, and we've experimented with it. We've done an episode on it. I mean, so here we are.
I have to say though, however, while I did this Mid-Journey thing, I still support artists because let's just say, we did an Act 2 new logo, right?
Yeah.
You could easily AI that shit. Easily. Cut, print, put that on a shirt, done. But we hired artists. I just want to say that when it comes to actually paying people, I fully support humans.
But the thing is we don't have, right, when you're writing something, everyone knows this. You're in the moment. You're sitting at your computer and you're like, I need ingredients in this, or I need images of this. And to find that, it's so many extra steps. And then Mid-Journey is just right there.
Yeah.
Just for the taking.
Yeah.
That's all.
I'm ashamed.
Can I just maybe bring in an uplifting thing that I would kind of consider this week in writing?
Please, God.
I've been watching The Day of the Jackal on Peacock.
Yes.
It is a spy show with your boy Eddie Redmayne from Fantastic Beasts and Where to Hang with Them. I love The Day of the Jackal. It feels like to me the first spy series that is like cinematic, and it feels really big, and it feels almost Mission Impossibly Bondy, and I've been just in it. I'm almost done with the series, and I'm in. There's no turning back.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a really good series.
That's a great review.
Yeah. So I was just trying to pick us up a little bit.
That was good. As my This Week in Writing, I'm watching Shrinking.
Oh, yeah.
And what a fucking good show. We ended the episode yesterday and both Paul and I were just like, what a fucking well-written show. What a well-written show. How is it well-written? And then I had to, break that down. And it's only, the episode we just saw last night was like a 30-minute episode. It's 36 with credits, etc. 30-minute episode of just scenes, just writing. And there are multiple storylines going on, all of which feel complete within themselves. And I think that becomes the key in writing really tight TV that feels like it's moving at a clip. It feels like things are progressing. You feel really excited. You feel like characters are turning. Whether they're going back or forward, it doesn't matter. They're moving in some way as a character. They're arcing in some way. Every single scene in these episodes has a purpose. And even though it's a comedy and there's a lot of jokes here and there that we spend time on, even the jokes are furthering a character's relationship with one another. Yeah. And I think it's a really great example of how to write really tight TV where every scene has a purpose.
That's beautiful. On that note, over the holidays, as you do, you talk to some people about movies and this and that. And I got into a conversation with someone who I only sort of know, and he's not in the industry. But we were talking about the movie Wicked, which I happen to love. And he said, oh, yeah, Wicked, should have been like 30 minutes shorter, which is a substantial amount of time, Tasha.
Well, it is a 3-hour movie, right?
Well, it's 240, but to just casually throw out, it needs to be 30 minutes shorter.
Yeah.
Come on. So I said, well, how would you make it 30 minutes shorter?
Get him.
And he didn't have an answer. I don't know. There's too much this, there's too much okay. So he didn't have a solid answer. And it was a reminder of how important it is. And you do this, I do this. We talk about this is when something is working, like you're just talking about with Shrinking, when something's working, you talk about it. When something's not working, you kind of have to know what to solve, I think. Or at least use it as an exercise, because you can't be the person who's just like, this is 30 minutes too long, and then not have some kind of like solve to how to make it better.
I love what you just said, that use it as an exercise, as a learning experience, 1000%, rather than just shit on something. I love that.
I just can't stand when people are like, script was too long. And you're like, well, how would you make it shorter? And you're like, and then if you don't have an answer, the script is perfect.
I do that with Paul all the time. And sometimes
Oh,
it'll
God.
be like, well, like they should have cut this storyline. And I'll be like, yeah, but if they did that, then you wouldn't have this aspect of the movie. And he's like, oh yeah, okay, right. So like we kind of like talk through probably why the writer chose to do that, was like to answer this problem. And it might not have been the best solution, but like there is a reason for these things to be in the movie. And it's so helpful as a writer to like be able to sort of see the brain of the writer working in other things.
Totally.
All right.
Main topic?
Let's go.
Let's go. All right, Tasha, our main topic for today are Christmas genre mashups and why we love them and why they work and some moments that make them work, because I think Christmas genre mashups are just the best.
Yeah.
I was thinking about these mashups that we're going to get into, and I was thinking about genre films, and I was thinking that genres, they allow you to work in extreme situations, basically, and they allow you to press on themes in ways that maybe you couldn't do in more of a straight and narrow kind of Christmas movie. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm just going to get right into my first one.
Let's go.
Let's go. My first Christmas genre mashup, and I'm going to tie this together, was Violent Night. Put a pause in this for a second. I had to veer off the course and not put Die Hard as number one in this. As a matter of fact, it was so just right there. And I'm trying for this list and these movies that we're about to name, for me personally, I stepped outside of the box.
For sure.
I had to, but just for the record,
I hear you.
like Lethal Weapon, Die Hard, yeah. Okay, yeah. Violent Night. How would you describe Violent Night? An action thriller Christmas movie?
Yeah.
Me too. And if you haven't seen Violent Night, it's incredible. And so going back to like using genre and using these heightened moments to lean into like a Christmas spirit type thing, something that just came to mind, a scene that came to mind, was when Santa Claus is fighting the mercenaries, and he starts using the Christmas objects as weapons to beat the shit out of all these people. He uses like a candy cane, he uses Christmas lights, and I know that's an action scene, is not really playing into theme per se, but I just feel like moments like that make it feel special.
Yeah.
It's an action movie and it's a Christmas movie, and you're bringing them together.
This is on my list as well. Violent Night is a fantastic mashup. I want more of these rated R action movies that are set in the world of Christmas.
Yeah.
That are not like horror, like the Krampus type movies. I'm not a big fan of that kind of violence, but this is fun. And I also pointed out for me in my notes, like the same scene you're talking about where he kills a thug with a Christmas ornament and wraps lights around his neck. And it's organic to the scene because there happens to be a Christmas tree in the scene because it is a house that's celebrating Christmas. So it doesn't go out of its way to use these items. It's really organic to the fighting scene, which I think is what makes it not cheesy, because it easily could be cheesy, which maybe we'll get into Red One, but I feel like Red One, I really enjoyed watching Red One, but that definitely like veered into cheesy territory because it was trying to find those Christmas moments in each scene that it was in, versus Violent Night, which does it in a much more organic way. Santa has no intention of using that tree. It's just background setting. We don't even notice it until we have to fucking use it, which is very, very cool. And then I think too, you're talking about theme and keeping up the theme of Christmas within a Christmas movie, even though it's an action thriller. There's generally the personality of Santa that remains with him. Like the whole time he's talking to a little kid who's also trapped in the house. And you can tell that his motive, the reason why he's staying to help, is because there's a little kid in danger that he needs to make safe. And that is 100% who Santa is, and that's what drives him in the movie. And it's true to the Santa that we all know and love. And so that also makes it feel, again, like organically purposeful.
I was going to say the same thing. Like that was, I think, one of the great things about this movie was that it stuck to the core of who Santa Claus is. Granted, he's older, or not older, he's a little more disgruntled, and he's been around the block a few times, but he's still Santa Claus and he still cares about people. And another great moment, we're just kind of like flipping, the norms of Christmas movies, was the naughty and nice list that they used. And there was a moment in it, I believe it's Naughty or Nice list, where he starts reading off the things the bad guys have done.
Yeah.
And it's just such a fun moment and so cool. It's just different and just heightens. I mean, they're already bad, but then kind of levels them up a little bit more. And it's those little moments that you're leaning into the Christmas spirit, and it still is a Christmas movie. And you have this lovely, jolly guy who's also this killer.
It's so good. Do you feel like this is a movie you'll continue to watch every year?
Well, that's a tough one. I don't know if it's an every year type thing, but it's definitely maybe I will watch it every year. Like, I'll have to kind of find time to watch it. It's not exactly like Home Alone.
Yeah, there is something weird about these when we talk about Christmas movies and these mashups to think about, because I feel like when we put on Christmas movies during the holidays, it's usually in the background while we're like wrapping presents or we're cooking or whatever it is. And it makes us feel good, and that's why it's on in the background. And I don't think Violent Night is the kind of Christmas movie that like makes you feel warm and fuzzy. It's just really fun. So yeah, not sure it's like a put on in the background kind of Christmas movie, which is just interesting, at least for us, anyways. Other people may want that. All right, I'm gonna do mine.
Yeah,
and it's gonna be one of the same as yours, I'm sure.
100%.
Is Home Alone as a mashup?
Yeah, of course I have Home Alone. I didn't want to put it on, but I have it as like a substitute.
So that would be what? Like a family action movie.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone loves this movie. I've never met a single person who's like, Home Alone, fuck that movie. This is the one you put on in the background that makes you feel good all the time. It's not violent, which I think helps, but there is violence in it.
Yeah.
And talking about the mashup and reasons why it works really well, at least in my estimation, is a similar reason actually to Violent Night, which is like the scene that really comes to my mind is when he's Macaulay Culkin is setting up all the traps in the house. He's using a lot of items that are already in the house because it's Christmas time. So like the glass bulbs on the tree, he takes those down, he puts them under the window because he's orchestrated that the burglar will come in barefoot and step on all these glass ornaments, right? So like there are things, again, that are organic to the season that he is using in a really smart way that aren't there originally when we set the movie up to be used as instruments of violence, which was what makes him clever, and it's what makes it feel, again, more organic.
Yeah. And also, I think what Home Alone does great, which I think is the basis of all Christmas movies, is that it touches on being together with a family. It touches on what the spirit of Christmas is. Violent Night did this as well. Like Home Alone, he feels lonely. He misses his family. That's basically his arc, is wanting to be with the family for Christmas time. His family's trying to get to him. And they constantly just like, of course, it's about this kid who's alone growing up. He's fighting for his own house. But that's what I think is so beautiful about it. And I think in all Christmas movies, like that essence is in all of them. That's what makes a Christmas movie, is that through line of just being with somebody else and finding a way to be complete and happy.
Yeah. Who doesn't love a movie about that? Hope and togetherness. And I mean, you totally empathize with him at the beginning with him hating his family and wishing they didn't exist.
Yeah.
And then once they're gone, you're like, oh, dang.
Yeah, he's got the bond with the old guy across the street. There's that, and he convinces the old guy to be with his family. Like it's just, it's freaking perfect, man.
Yeah, yep. That's a very key element when you're genre mashing.
Can we talk about the red one? It was on my list. Let's
it on your list? Please, yeah.
Okay. So if anyone hasn't seen the red one, it's with The Rock and Captain America, Chris Evans. If anyone didn't know who Captain America was, it's an action movie. It's a big holiday action movie, and I think it feels like maybe the first of its kind in that regard. Like I haven't seen a big holiday action movie. You liked it.
I did.
I liked it more than I thought I would.
I did not expect to like it.
So I think what the best part of it, there's like the father-son story between Chris Evans and his son.
You love a good father-son story.
Yeah. I do love that. That got me towards the end. But there was like that that Chris Evans element and ties into like the Home Alone. It's like becoming complete again. And you always have to have that disgruntled character like Chris Evans who is anti-Christmas. He's not a believer. He then gets put up to the test of belief and then get thrust into the world of magic and hope and love. And in Red One's case, it's like the Christmas lore. And I actually think the Red One did a really good job of kind of leaning into everything. There's, I think, some reasons why some things could have done differently, but I really liked it. And I think it really hit home, like all those sentimental moments.
Yeah.
For better or worse, I think it got there.
Yeah, and I think that's a really great point because when you look at all the movies we've already listed, there's always this pair up of someone who doesn't believe in the spirit of Christmas and then someone who does. And this is a really great example of like the setup of Chris Evans' character in Red One was so perfect it was almost poorly written because it was so cliche. But it was also so fun to just see the snowball of how terrible he is, culminating at him literally stealing candy from a baby. Mm-hmm. And I say poorly written because like that was the most predictable moment, but also really fun to watch happen. And then you pair him with someone like The Rock, who literally works in Santa's village, knows Santa is real, believes in Santa's mission and kids and the whole thing. So you get, and the reason why I think that's important in a lot of these Christmas movies is because it allows what you're talking about, this theme of what Christmas is, togetherness, whatever you think Christmas is, like getting to talk about that kind of hope is inevitable if you have two characters who are opposed when it comes to what Christmas is and then have to talk about it. Because then they resolve it and then they get to have this conversation. The same thing happens in Home Alone, right? You mentioned the guy next door who doesn't see his family anymore. And of course, we have a scene where Macaulay Culkin is sitting in the church next to him talking about the importance of being with your family and the importance of repairing a relationship with his son. You have to have that guy in there so that Macaulay Culkin can kind of have this realization himself and talk about Christmas. So Violent Night also has it where, you know, John Leguizamo is very anti-Christmas because he's a big bad guy.
Johnny Legs. Do you think that in Christmas movies you have to be overt about how somebody feels? Like what you were just talking about with like the Chris Evans stealing candy from a baby, very much on the nose, but I thought it worked, and it's one of those things where you're like, oh man, what a dick. Like, I don't think you can be subtle. I think you need overt moments in Christmas movies, I think is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, in Home Alone, though, it still feels organic to who Macaulay Culkin is, right? Like he freaks out about not having cheese pizza, but you kind of feel why he's freaking out because his family takes all of his shit and they like treat him like shit and they forgot about his fucking pizza, the one thing that he wanted. So he's acting like a brat to the point where he gets shoved up into the attic, which is being on the naughty list, but you're kind of with him emotionally on that journey. So it feels less sort of, I guess, like spit at you the way that it is in Red One of like, you're not really in Chris Evans' head as he's doing these terrible things. You're just kind of watching it happen in front of you. Whereas in Home Alone, I feel like I'm in the position of Macaulay Culkin, like want the best for him, even though he's being a dick.
The last thing I'll say about Red One and kind of touching back onto the genre mashup is what I think that allowed to do, like this big sprawling action movie, is they really explored the mythology of Christmas, and they went and saw a witch and Krampus and snowmen over here and all these different they got to travel to these different places, which I think doing a movie like that allows you to do and world build.
Yeah,
something you might know a little bit about.
I love it. Yeah, I loved all that stuff. I thought I was gonna hate it. Like I thought it was gonna be too, again, cheesy and not organic to the movie, and it kind of was, but it wasn't enough for me to dislike it. It felt super fun because like I was very happy to just be living in a world where Christmas was real and there were rules that were understood within the world itself. Like they have an organization that runs mythological creatures, which I think that organization really helped because it told the audience that people within the movie understand what's happening. And for people within the movie, like The Rock, because he works at Santa's village and he's aware of all these mythical creatures, seeing snowmen appear on a beach is not super weird for him.
Yeah.
So it didn't feel random to him, which made it as an audience be like, okay, I guess I'm willing to be on this ride a little bit more than just like if suddenly they appeared out of nowhere and that was just a random thing that seemed to happen. I don't know if that difference makes sense, but I do think it's important that when you have these big crazy character thing or big crazy world things, that it makes sense within the space that you've created in your movie.
I know we've talked about this, but I'm just going to say it one more time. I know it's in every single Christmas movie, what needs to be there. Hope, renewal, and second chances.
Yeah.
The 3. You got the 3, and you have a Christmas movie. You just put it in Christmas.
Write that right next to my computer because I'm just going to get into it. We are writing a Christmas movie together.
Yes, we are.
And so this is an important topic for us. It's one that we think a lot about. And there's all these elements we have to juggle. And I kind of think it's hard. It's been harder than I expected.
I think it's a little harder than I thought as well.
It's just a lot of logic problems, really. I think we have the world in hand because Josh and I both love Christmas and we both love Santa and like Santa's village and just like the magic of what that place could be. This kind of like feel good aspect of what that all represents. Josh and I really love. So it's been really fun to build out the world. But then it's like the logic of the murder mystery passing through a world that we have already established and love. That's been sort of the tricky part. Like it's that genre mashup aspect. But yeah, it is. We have characters who are anti-Christmas. We have this theme of hope and renewal, and this is what Christmas is. We have that conversation built into the movie as well of a character talking to our disgruntled character about the meaning of Christmas, and hopefully our disgruntled character will also arc the way that Chris Evans does.
I think she does.
Yeah.
I want to throw in one just complete curveball. You're going to just be like, what are you talking about? Spirited, the musical with Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
A movie that I actually kind of liked. And I thought it was fun. I think it's a movie that you can put on and watch a few times over. Some twists. Will Ferrell used to be Ebenezer Scrooge, right? That's what it is. Oh yeah, and then he is now like this reformed spirit that's trying to help people, and it's a musical. And I think they have this one musical number in it. I think it's called Good Afternoon, and it's just it passes the time. It tells the story, and it's just a clever way to insert Christmas mythology and character moments inside of this one story, because Will Ferrell does have a few moments. But I thought I was trying to think of like what a Christmas musical would be just for a genre mashup. And this was the only one I could think of. Yeah.
I mean, I think isn't A Muppet's Christmas Carol a musical?
Oh yeah. I didn't even think about that. Wow. My brain doesn't go past.
I only watch that once a year, so I don't remember, but I think there's musical numbers in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
That's a really good mashup idea. Of course, the musical with Christmas, which feels like a natural thing because musicals always make you feel really good. But there aren't really a ton of, at least popular Christmas musicals that hit the mainstream that I can think of.
Yeah, and again, in that movie, it's Ryan Reynolds who's like anti-Christmas. He can't be converted, and now you have Will Ferrell, the beacon of hope.
Yeah, you got to have both.
Yeah. So those are some mashups.
It's beautiful.
Did we do it?
I think we did it for us. I'm curious what other people's favorite genre mashup Christmas movies are. And also if you watch them every year. Or if those genre mashups tend to just be kind of a one and done because it's fun. Or does it go onto your Christmas list of movies every year?
Yeah.
All right. Quote of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you are fed up with life, start writing. Ink is the great cure for all human ills. C.S. Lewis. Please remember to rate and subscribe. Follow us at ActTwoWriters for more awesome writing stuff. You can follow me, Tasha, at Story Thursday on Instagram, or on Twitter and Blue Sky at Tasha 3.0.
I'm Joshua Hallman on Twitter, Josh Hallman on Instagram.
And as always, the Act 2 podcast is a production of Act 2, a network and support group for the everyday working screenwriter. This episode was edited by Paul Lundquist.